You, Mike Snyder, are a keeper.
Ellen and Mike Snyder go full throttle on love.
I think they were a great complement, a great mix.
I thought my brother had a perfect life.
It's Ellen. I've got something to tell you.
But secrets and lies are more than mere roadblocks on the path to matrimonial bliss.
Maybe Mike had found out about an affair.
She was looking through his phone because she was already suspicious.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's a big debt.
Damn it, what are you thinking, Ellen?
This union is on a collision course with death.
We did look for this gay lover in Phoenix.
You're not gonna get away with this.
This was a exclusive community. This is not where people's bodies are buried.
Love may be blind and marriage bliss, but divorce is murder. It's autumn in 1991, and at just 32 years old, Ellen Sheffield is a rising star on the busy city strip lined with car dealerships.
Great work with that sedan.
She was good at what she did. Good with customers, good with the technicians, always willing to help. The guys knew that they could go to her, and she had their back. And being a woman in a man's world, so to speak.
Ellen makes good money and is on track to becoming an executive, but her personal life has veered a little off course. She split from her husband, David, 2 years before, and is raising their 7-year-old son, Matt, by herself.
Ellen was a very good mom from what I could see. She was very close to Matt, probably partly because it was the two of them and the two of them alone.
But not for long.
Well, from what I hear, my brother Mike met Ellen through the business.
Hey.
Hi.
You should get rid of that guy. He didn't even introduce us.
Hi, I'm Ellen, but you can call me Miss Sheffield.
Of course. I'm Mr. Snyder, but you can call me Mike.
Tell me everything about that guy.
Enter Mike Snyder, a 33-year-old master mechanic who works at another dealership on the same strip. He, too, is in the fast lane at work.
Mike, from a very early age, just enjoyed working, tearing apart things. He went to Denver Automotive and became a master mechanic, and came back to Albuquerque and made a very lucrative income.
My brother was a very good mechanic. It didn't come easily and just fall into his lap. He worked hard, he worked long hours.
And like Ellen, Mike has recently split from his spouse.
Mike was first married to another really nice young lady. Unfortunately, she was in a very bad auto accident and had substantial injuries, and I think the struggles in their marriage seemed to overtake them, and their marriage didn't survive.
There are two slightly different versions of how Mike and Ellen actually start dating.
My perception is that Ellen pursued him. Her version is the other way around.
I heard you like one sugar and a lot of cream.
You heard right. Come on in.
Either way, they both like what they see in all sorts of ways.
She's an attractive woman. I think he's handsome, so I can see a mutual attraction both ways. I think Ellen was outgoing, so it complemented him being more quiet.
She wanted a man who was probably set and financially secure.
I was happy he found somebody.
Their courtship is fast and furious.
I've heard about the stories of him leaving roses on her car.
Mike was very quiet and reserved, but had the heart of gold.
He gives her diamond earrings just 6 weeks after they start dating.
I'm glad you like him.
You, Mike Snyder, are a keeper.
I was happy he found somebody after he had gone through his first divorce.
By the next fall, Ellen's divorce is finalized, and she is granted custody of her son, Matt. It's full speed ahead with Mike.
I do feel that Mike and Ellen's relationship did move quickly.
Yeah. I'm on one of that.
She moved in, pretty soon, her and her son, into my brother's home that he had in Rio Rancho. So we just supported them, and, life for them was good.
Over the next couple of years, Mike takes a special shine to young Matt, who's already showing promise as a budding mechanic.
Make sure that's good and tight now.
Matt didn't see his father, so Mike coming into his life was positive for him.
You got a real knack for that, Matt. Good job.
Time for a break for my hardworking men.
He's really good.
I think she was happy and felt secure, and her son needed a positive role model, and I think Mike filled that.
Hey, Matt. I got you a little surprise for all that hard work on the engine.
Look, Mom, it's mine.
Less than 3 years after meeting, Ellen and Mike are married.
It was a second marriage for both of them. It was a small ceremony. Her family, her mom, her grandma, my parents were there.
Everybody was just thrilled that this young couple was married, finding each other.
As part of their new life together, they build a dream home in a posh suburb just outside the city.
North Albuquerque Acres is a fairly exclusive neighborhood, and it's slightly remote from the city because it's up against the mountains. Mike wanted to build his own house. He had a vision of his dream house, and he had the money to build it.
Being the type of person he was, good with his hands, and he built the house himself. And they worked on that house evenings when they got home from work and weekends.
The house isn't the only thing to celebrate. By early 1995, Ellen is expecting their first child.
I know they both wanted to have a child together, even though that Ellen had, a child from another marriage.
Pregnancy doesn't slow Ellen down one bit.
Nothing like a little deadline to keep work on schedule.
She continued to work, at her job, and then also help build the home.
They move into their new house in the fall of 1995.
He was real excited. They all were.
I thought my brother had a perfect life.
A perfect life that becomes even more so when their healthy baby Isabel is born just as the house is ready.
And I believe the house was finally completed before she actually arrived in the world, and they were able to take her home to a finished home.
Psychotherapist Stacy Kaiser and forensic psychologist Brian Russell see great potential for success and for trouble down the line.
Overall, things look pretty good for them. They have a lot in common. Mike seems to have totally embraced Ellen's child. They really like nice things. Those things really matter to them. And some people might judge that and say that's not good. However, it could work out for them as long as they're making enough money, they're not going into debt.
Mike and Ellen both seem to be sort of workaholics, and while that is perhaps okay, it still causes concern for me about whether or not this is a couple who really ought to be thinking about growing their family. Are they in a position where they want to devote the kind of time you have to devote to being parents of a newborn baby?
When you have a family, it's really important that there's focus on the couple and on the family itself, including the kids. And when both adults' focus is primarily on work, it means that there is no one focusing on the home front. And so it worries me how this family is going to be able to stick together.
Both Ellen and Mike seem happy.
He was thrilled to be having a baby. And when she came, he was a very doting dad. I think just meant absolutely the world to him.
Close your eyes now, sleep. Daddy's here, baby girl.
He loved this little child like nobody's business.
But privately, the birth marks a turning point for the couple.
What he described as World War III was going on in the office next door.
He's not the man I married.
There was basically a second mortgage taken out.
What are you thinking, Ellen?
To the tune of over $300,000.
Ellen and Mike Snyder have every reason to be happy. They've built a dream house and welcomed their first daughter, Isabel, less than 2 years into their marriage. They make a beautiful family of 4 with Ellen's son from a previous marriage, Matt. But the arrival of the new baby doesn't please everyone.
Hey, where are you going? I need your help.
Whatever.
Don't you give me that lip.
Hey! Don't talk to him that way.
It probably was a little hurtful, I think, for Matt to have a new sibling to kind of contend with. So I think he probably felt maybe alone and kind of discarded, and perhaps that's when he decided to spend more time away from home.
Just come back inside.
Matt, now a teenager, is no longer best buddies with his stepdad and is spending less and less time at home, as are Mike and Ellen.
After Isabel came into their lives, it seemed like maybe they started to pull apart from each other. They weren't spending a whole lot of time as a family. Both Mike and Ellen worked very long hours, and even though they loved both their children, they missed her and they wanted to be there for her, but their jobs kept them away from her at an early age.
My autograph.
The hard work pays off. Ellen is promoted to the executive level, where she becomes the supervisor to 30 mechanics. Mike is not.
Hey, can you take her to daycare today? Big day today. I gotta crack the whip on those mechanics.
Mike was still a mechanic, so perhaps for a man it was a little degrading or, troubling to have his wife now in a position that was perhaps greater than him.
Bye. Bye.
Sadly, the promotion seems to push them further apart.
So at one point when I was at their home and saw a twin-size mattress on the floor, I was a little surprised. We found out that was where my brother, Mike, was sleeping, and that he hadn't been sleeping in the master bedroom with Ellen for quite some time.
Ellen and Mike agree it's easier this way with the new baby. Except the distance between them continues to grow, literally. By the late 1990s, Mike's work is taking him away from home, usually to Phoenix, Arizona.
Being a mechanic, you have to constantly go to training, get recertified. So that was an ongoing process for my brother throughout his career. But according to Ellen, she says that he was going much more frequently.
Then, 7 years into their marriage, the strength of their relationship is really put to the test when Mike gets sick.
Mike would have part of his body go numb. He would have tingling in his extremities. They finally determined that he had been suffering with multiple sclerosis.
MS, a progressive and highly debilitating autoimmune disorder.
When Mike was diagnosed with MS, it was a fairly devastating blow. You can imagine he was a very good mechanic, and now the thing that he did for a living, the thing he loved, he wasn't able to do as well anymore. He was in near constant pain. He was quite weak.
He got to the point where he had to take a leave of absence from work and was going under kind of experimental treatments of getting chemotherapy to try to combat the symptoms of MS.
Mike is willing to try anything to stop its progress, even leave his job for good.
It took some time, but he did file for Social Security and disability.
And he had to basically stop doing what he did for a living, which, as you can imagine, put a strain on the relationship that was already pretty strained. Ellen saw that the money that had been coming in from him wasn't going to be coming in the same way anymore.
I think at this time, my brother became even more withdrawn and reserved than he was. I can't imagine really internally what he was going through. I know there were struggles that we would never understand.
One small consolation is that Mike can spend more time with his daughter.
Good day at school today? Yeah, you're a good girl?
But he complains he's not getting enough attention from the other woman in his life, his wife.
Hey, how'd it go with the doctor today?
Oh, fine. Could have been there.
I do know that for his first chemotherapy that Ellen did not go, and it was very traumatic for my brother that he had to call my mother kind of at last minute notice.
I was busy, and you were very well taken care of. Let's not make a big deal out of this, okay?
Mommy's pretty busy, isn't she?
At that point, they were clearly really strained, and she put other priorities above his needs.
An MS diagnosis is a very traumatic thing. It's a chronic illness. It can have devastating effects that can be unpredictable. Some people are better at managing it than others. This is why we have a vow that says in sickness and in health, because you really have to be able to lean on the other spouse. And I haven't seen from Mike and Ellen enough of that kind of foundation to make me confident that she's going to sort of rise to the occasion and support him when he needs it through this illness.
There are really two ways that Ellen could go when she finds out about this diagnosis. The first is she could really embrace her role as the caregiver, the breadwinner. The second alternative is that she is resentful about being put in this situation. She's worried about the fact that she's going to have to take care of him long term. So it is totally possible that the diagnosis of MS that Mike has now received could be the catalyst to bring these two together again. It is also possible that it is going to be the thing that tears them apart.
Within months of the diagnosis, the couple is clearly on the rocks.
Every year our family has a big Christmas party. And my brother, being a very good cook, he would make a big pot of pozole, which is a New Mexican dish.
Hey, brought the pozole. We can't stay.
What are you talking about?
Don't worry about it.
Look, the kids are outside. We'll come and get them in a little bit, okay?
Seriously?
We didn't see them fight, but you sure could feel the tension. They wouldn't talk, they didn't seem to act as a couple, they wouldn't communicate.
You know I wanted to stay.
The tension in the home is made public when Ellen shows up to work with bruises.
Ellen had come to work and had indicated that she had become injured breaking up a fight between her son and Mike Snyder.
Took the glasses.
Stupid teenage family drama.
Michael and her son had gotten into a physical altercation, and she jumped into the middle in an attempt to stop that, and that's how she obtained the bruising.
A heroine caught in the crossfire. But according to a colleague, she is the victim.
On one occasion in particular, what he described as World War III was going on in the office next door.
So where that stuff just went, it just kind of magically disappeared.
He'd heard some yelling and screaming going on in the hallway just outside of Ellen's office and walked out to see what was going on.
We'll just leave him. Is everything okay?
He is not the man I married.
She indicated that there was emotional, physical, and mental abuse.
So that coworker let her borrow, for lack of a better term, his firearm.
Look, I've got something for your protection, okay? Just in case.
Ellen hides the gun at the couple's home. where she hopes Mike and the kids don't find it. Mike doesn't find the gun, but he does make a different, more shocking discovery.
There was a second mortgage taken out to the tune of over $300,000.
Hey. We need to talk, Ellen.
But what?
Don't play dumb. What's going on with the money?
I couldn't tell you what was being done with the money, but there was definitely a money issue.
I had heard that she was gambling.
That's what the talk was.
It's really hard to know, but by the end, there were hundreds of thousands of dollars gone and not a whole lot to show for it.
We could lose everything because of you. What are you thinking, Ellen?
You're one to talk? You're not even working anymore.
Don't you walk away from me.
Oh, okay, you're okay, you're okay. All right, I got you. Okay.
Thank you.
In late 2001, Mike decides to leave Ellen and plans to head to his family's lakeside home.
He was taking things that were important to him, pictures, cards.
It was a sign of he was going to move out. He was leaving.
It seems that Ellen's debt pushed him over the edge.
Damn it!
But nobody knows the real reason Mike is planning his exit.
Mike was using those training sessions as an opportunity to have an affair.
That came out of left field, and that shocked me. I wasn't expecting anything like that.
Mike Snyder wants to leave his wife, Ellen, after less than 8 years of marriage. It might have something to do with her taking out a second mortgage on their home behind his back. Or it might not.
Done for tonight.
It's Ellen's turn to make a shocking discovery.
Mike had just gotten a new cell phone. In fact, it was the first cell phone that he had ever owned. At one point, he was out of the room, and she was looking through the phone because she was already suspicious.
What she sees and hears fills her heart with rage.
Hey, baby, missing that hot bod of yours. Looking forward to taking off your clothes and doing the nasty.
Apparently, Ellen was able to hear messages describing various sexual acts, which led her to believe that Michael was carrying on a homosexual relationship.
An affair with a man named David in Phoenix.
She believed that Mike was using those training sessions as an opportunity to meet and to have an affair with a man out in Phoenix, Arizona.
She confronts her husband.
This is what's in Phoenix?
Hey, baby, missing that hot
give me
bod
that.
of yours. Looking forward to
Cheating son of a bitch! With another man?
You think what you want?
You're pathetic! I heard the message!
Whatever!
When she woke up the next morning, Mike was gone. His truck was still parked out front, and she concluded that he must have gotten a ride to the airport, presumably to go to Phoenix, Arizona, to move in with his boyfriend.
A few days later, Ellen breaks the news to Mike's sisters.
Laura, it's Ellen. I've got something to tell you.
She called me, just wanted to let you know Mike's left. She woke up and he was gone.
His sisters aren't surprised that he's left her, but they do not believe it's for another man.
There's no way. There's just absolutely no way. It wouldn't matter to me if he was, but I would see signs. I would know there'd be nothing to hide, nothing to be secretive about.
It seems that Mike's disappearance has surprised the people who knew him best. There have certainly been cases in which married men or women have left the marriage to go be in a same-sex relationship, and that has estranged them not only from their former spouse, but also from their kids. And If that truly is the explanation for why Mike has disappeared, it says to me that there was some profound, long-standing dishonesty between Mike and Ellen on his part, concealing that aspect of himself.
It is possible that he has been afraid of people's reactions to what he's doing in his life, and so he has fled for that reason. It may be that he is ill and has run off to sort of die alone. Upon Mike discovering that they have such deep financial problems and that most of them are the result of Ellen and that she had been hiding it, that could have added to his desire to leave. And it's also possible that there's foul play involved.
In early April 2002, Ellen filed for divorce, and she indicated in the divorce paperwork that the reason being that Mike Snyder had abandoned her and her family.
With Mike in absentia, a judge grants her the divorce and the house, along with full custody of Isabel. To make things worse, Ellen's money troubles have finally caught up with her.
There is not an income coming in from him, so the house goes into foreclosure.
His home was free and clear until she took out that $306,000 mortgage.
While all this is going on, Mike's family can't believe he doesn't reach out to them.
I'd like to declare a missing person. It's my brother.
Mike's name goes into a national missing persons database. But as 2002 turns to 2003, nothing happens.
The police said, look, he's a grown man. He can do whatever he wants. If he wants to go to Arizona, he went to Arizona. If he wants to disappear, he can disappear.
After 2 years without a word from Mike, his father passes away.
He had been ill for some time and finally succumbed to his illness.
Family's there, friends, and Ellen and her son walked in.
Aside from the odd phone call, Mike's sisters haven't had any contact with Ellen or her son for quite some time.
We were a little surprised to see him, but, you know, okay. My dad thought fondly of both of them, so, you know.
We gave them their time, you know, to go up to the casket and share their private moments.
But Mike's stepson, 19-year-old Matt, quickly draws everyone's attention.
Matt was crying uncontrollably.
I've really never seen somebody that distraught and emotionally broke up. It was very strange.
I mean, it's not his blood grandpa. There was no extreme relationship or closeness to him and my father that would have warranted that kind of reaction.
The sad family reunion underscores the fact that nobody has seen or heard from Mike in years.
We knew by that point if he didn't show up for his dad's funeral, something had happened.
But that something won't be anything they ever would have imagined.
There's some initial digging, but they find nothing.
I know exactly where he is.
The old adage rings true here, no victim, no crime.
Two years have gone by since Ellen and Mike Snyder's divorce, and since the family reported him missing. When Mike doesn't show up for his own father's funeral, his sisters take action. Terry follows up with the Albuquerque Police Department on her missing persons report from 2002. In August 2005, cold case detective Mark Wilson is assigned to investigate.
My family was really close.
Okay, but did he ever mention anything at all about anybody that he knew in Phoenix?
No, and there's no way he wouldn't have told me.
So he looked into it and realized that there was absolutely zero tracking mechanisms to find Michael Snyder. Usually when people run away from their homes or their spouses, they leave some sort of trail. Very rarely have we ever seen someone run away from home and simply vanish off the face of the earth.
Mike's sisters grow more desperate and turn to a psychic for help.
Didn't really tell him a lot, kind of vague, but at one point, he told us, he goes, I feel like your brother's dead. I don't feel like he's alive.
I feel that there's foul play here. A lot of foul play here. And there are two people involved with this.
and it was monetary in motive.
But Detective Wilson feels otherwise when he finds evidence that points to the contrary.
Bingo.
Beginning in 2003, all the way through approximately 2006, individual returns were being filed in Mike's name.
State income taxes for the 3 years after his disappearance. In his investigation, Wilson also contacts Ellen. The tax filings are consistent with what she's been saying all along.
Your husband's returns for the last 3 years.
Ex-husband.
Ellen gives the detective what info she has.
And like I said, he's not missing. I know exactly where he is. He's on a beach somewhere with his gay lover. It's all there.
Specifically a Western Union transfer receipt that went to a location in Phoenix, Arizona. She also had credit card receipt indicating the U-Haul rental had been paid for with a credit card also in this man's name. And then also she provided several phone records which were consistent with a gay club in Phoenix, Arizona, and indicating that Mike had been calling frequently this club.
Detective Wilson sets out to find Mike's lover, David Simmons.
Using law enforcement databases, did try to track down anybody that matched that name in the Phoenix metro area.
Mike's family waits eagerly for news. But Detective Wilson doesn't have much to report.
We did look for this gay lover in Phoenix and were never able to locate him.
The income tax returns are good news and bad news. The good news is that there's a hope that he's alive and well and living somewhere. The bad news is, why haven't we heard from him and what's wrong?
The fact that Mike's family went to a psychic suggests to me that they had sort of lost faith in the police's ability to really get to the bottom of the mystery of Mike's disappearance, that they were certain, in their own minds at least, that Mike would not have disappeared and just fallen off the map voluntarily.
I don't really see this as desperation. When you have a missing family member, someone you love, you feel helpless and hopeless because you don't have any answers. And so you're looking for answers.
After months of searching, the trail comes to an abrupt halt.
Detective Mark Wilson was working the case and felt it had gone cold.
He makes a last-ditch attempt to resuscitate the case.
He requested from a local reporter with the Albuquerque Journal that they run a follow-up story about the disappearance of Mike Snyder.
And honestly, we were thrilled because to us, great, finally some action.
The Journal ran a front-page article about the disappearance of Mike and the concerns that foul play may be involved.
My husband went out to get the paper, thought it would be a little small blib, maybe on the second or third section. And I can remember my husband calling up to me from downstairs. It's on the front page. Wow, really? That article was kind of enlightening for us because they suspect foul play.
The good thing about that is that that led to some significant leads.
We received a tip from a neighbor who remembered that around the time that Michael Snyder had gone missing, she saw Ellen in the backyard of their residence digging what she said could have been a pretty deep hole.
One other thing that seemed noteworthy, one of the neighbors indicated that there was a tree that in 2001 was not in the yard, and in the summer of 2002, there was a large tree that was now planted out in the backyard.
Could Mike be buried under the tree?
Detective Wilson thought that a placement of a tree was very suspect.
On June 8, 2006, a full 4.5 years after Mike went missing, cadaver dogs are brought to the house.
The house now belonged to somebody else, but they were agreeable.
Both dogs indicated that there was possible remains in and around a tree in the backyard.
And so the decision was made to dig right around the trunk of the tree, thinking that maybe there was a body that could be under the tree, and then the tree was then placed to conceal it.
and they probed it and did whatever and never found anything.
To police, the only thing that's clearly dead is the case.
The old adage rings true here, no victim, no crime.
And so once again, the search for Mike goes cold.
At this point, Mike's family has given up hope until police get a break 4 years later.
So in January of 2010, a confidential informant came forward to the police department indicating that they had knowledge of Mike's disappearance.
Is this the breakthrough everyone has been hoping for?
I don't think they thought that they were going to find anything.
Everything that the informant said had to be taken suspiciously.
Mike Snyder has been missing for 8 years. Ex-wife Ellen says he left of his own free will, and police have not been able to prove otherwise until a new source steps forward.
Hey, I've got some information on the Snyder case.
A confidential informant said he had information about a murder that took place several years prior, and he was referring to the death of Michael Snyder.
Police are surprised to learn the informant is an old friend of Ellen's son, Matt, and his motives seem questionable.
Ellen had fired this friend from working in the dealership where she was one of the supervisors.
You need to get out of my office. You're fired.
Because this confidential informant had an obvious reason to seek revenge against Ellen and was angry with Ellen, everything that the informant said had to be taken suspiciously.
You're not gonna get away with this.
The confidential informant went on to say that Ellen's son had admitted to him that his mother had shot Michael Snyder.
Hey, man. Look, I just wanted to say it sucks about your stepdad leaving and all. You know. He didn't leave. He's still there. What?
And that he had helped her bury the body in the backyard of their home.
Police are dubious. They check the yard. No body. Still, the young man stands by his story and agrees to meet with Matt while the police listen in.
The cops came to see me, man. They're looking for information about you and your stepdad.
Well, just tell them you don't know anything.
I'm getting scared, man. Like, they know things, like reports about gunshots that night, or they know the make of the gun.
Well, that's impossible.
The informant asked about whether or not Ellen's son believed that the body was still there, and he indicated that yes, to the best of his knowledge, that Mike's body would still be there.
And look, they're not gonna find anything in that huge backyard.
It's enough to corroborate the story, but police need more for an arrest. So they go straight to Matt and confront him with the recording.
At night, me and my mom buried it in the hole. I don't want to go to jail.
The body is in the yard, but it's not under the tree. It's under the garage, where the dogs couldn't pick up a scent.
The house had changed significantly since the time period when Ellen and Mike had lived there in 2001, 2002.
One of the owners extended the garage from a 3-car garage to now a 6-car garage.
I don't think they thought that they were going to find anything because it was a dead story to them.
8 years later, and 10 feet under, Mike Snyder's skeletal remains are finally found. He had been shot 6 times.
For the 8 years of wondering and worrying, and you know, it's also just, it's overwhelming.
It's just every emotion you can possibly think of.
In exchange for his cooperation, Matt is not charged. And he tells police the whole story of what happened when he was just 17.
You're pathetic. I heard the message.
Whatever.
Ellen's son, he was woken up in the middle of the night by what he thought were gunshots.
He began to dial 911 when Ellen came to his door.
Matt, put down the phone. I need you to help me.
Matt, scared and in shock, reluctantly agrees.
They decide they're going to dig a hole in the backyard to bury Mike in. Becomes pretty clear fairly quickly that shovels are not going to do the trick. So they wait 2 days before they can get a backhoe, and they use the backhoe to dig the hole.
She and her son rolled Mike's body onto a dolly and into the hole.
And that's where they put Mike's body and bury him.
Ellen is charged with first-degree murder. She tries to claim self-defense.
You're not even working anymore.
But police and prosecutors don't buy it.
When Mike was diagnosed with MS, he was in near constant pain. He was quite weak.
No police reports were ever filed by Ellen Snyder to indicate physical domestic violence.
Police also unearth a pile of skeletons that give Ellen clear motive. In 1988, Ellen was charged and convicted of fraud and forgery and ordered to pay restitution. After Mike's disappearance, her white-collar crime spree continued.
Ellen not only was able to collect over $60,000 from Michael's 401k retirement fund, but also his disability payments from the federal government, as well as she filed 2 different tax returns under his name.
All told, she gained more than $100,000.
Nobody ever learns exactly where the money went, or if David Simmons is even real. But if he existed, he probably wasn't Mike's lover.
We were never able to corroborate whether or not that existed.
Of course, it's a made-up story on her behalf. She did it to protect herself, to keep what she had done, forgeries, fraud, pretty much stealing money.
We need to talk, Ellen. We could lose everything because of you. What are you thinking, Ellen?
It's possibly because he had finally said, look, I am leaving. You've ruined us financially. I can't live this way. And Ellen just wasn't going to have that.
What they do know is that when Ellen shot Mike, she emptied the clip.
Ellen kept the gun that her colleague had given her. She eventually returned it, but she returned it without any bullets, any ammunition.
I am highly skeptical of the gay romance. I'm highly skeptical of the domestic violence.
Had she been a victim, she would have had all of this time to talk about how it was self-defense, and she would have had a viable reason for wanting to kill him or killing him by accident. And so what instead she was doing is literally going about her life, acting like nothing had happened.
I think that Ellen was coldly, calculatedly creating well in advance so that she would have what she thought would be a plausible explanation for why he might want to disappear.
If I didn't already think that Ellen was a sociopath because of her ability to kill someone and act like nothing happened, I definitely would think that she could involve her son.
Prosecutors believe the killing is premeditated, but 8 years have gone by.
The statute of limitations had already run for things like manslaughter, second-degree murder, so they couldn't really prosecute her for that. So the only thing available to the prosecutors was first-degree murder, which means, of course, they have to prove intent. All it took was one juror to believe that Ellen was a battered woman and that she had shot in self-defense. And basically, Ellen would walk away a free woman. Prosecutors didn't want to take that chance.
And so what we did is we were able to reach a resolution by a plea agreement.
Ellen pleads guilty to manslaughter, and in combination with tax fraud and tampering with evidence, she is sentenced to 11 years.
It's just a tragedy that the state law didn't put her in jail for more jail time.
What kind of mother asks her teenage son to help dispose of a body? Ellen Snyder was that kind of mother.
Isabel, at 15, goes to live with Ellen's mother, and Matt, at 26, continues to work as a mechanic, just like his stepdad, Mike, killed at the hands of Ellen Snyder.
She has no remorse, no thought for our family, and really no thought for her daughter, Isabel, who she took her father away from her.
He was a great guy. He was a good guy. He's the best brother, best father, best son anybody could have, and I'd give anything to have him back.